now on a story we brought you earlier this week. After a year at anchor, a major cruise liner is planning to set sail from the Bahamas just in time for summer vacations. And our One Caribbean News' Deandra Hamilton has more on what this means for the industry, and specifically the Bahamas.
They've swapped their U.S. port for a Caribbean one. Hot news in the cruise industry is how Nassau, Bahamas will now be the departure point for Royal Caribbean Cruise Line through several Bahamas islands, including the recently revamped and colorful Coco Cay. It is a major move, and media reports say all staff and adult travelers will have to be vaccinated in order to board for the voyages set to begin in June. Passengers under 18 will need a negative PCR test for the coronavirus in order to travel, and Michael Bailey, president and CEO of Royal Caribbean International, said he believes starting with these travel requirements is the right step. It is a sensational spark for the Bahamas too. Promotions for the adventures on land, on the ocean and under it, in Grand Bahama and on Nassau, New Providence. And bookings open on Wednesday. Bahamas Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar said Royal Caribbean has long been a valued partner to the Bahamas, and we are thrilled to work with them on making Nassau their newest home port. Cruising is a vital part of the Bahamas' economy, and having Royal Caribbean and their guests return to our shores will contribute greatly to restoring and reactivating tourism. We have been preparing diligently for the last many months to ensure an experience that is equally safe and enjoyable. We are confident that cruise goers will receive the warm, friendly hospitality the Bahamas is famous for. We cannot wait to remind guests that it is still better in the Bahamas. End of quote. Cruising is hopeful that the mandate handed down by U.S. President Joe Biden to get every American adult vaccinated by May 1st will help travel to rebound and help the CDC to alter its tough benchmarks for the cruise industry. Until then, the first sail from Nassau, Bahamas is scheduled for June 12th, and it's a 7-night cruise.
Hurricane Maria, after it struck Puerto Rico, ruined and damaged many parts of the island, including our coral reefs. And as Earth Day approaches, Alanis Quinones brings us the details of a massive underwater cleanup around the island put on by environmental organizations.
As part of the celebration for Earth Day, environmental organizations in Puerto Rico are looking for 600 volunteers to participate in simultaneous underwater cleanups that are going to happen in April and are going to impact at least 15 beaches around the island.
This is to create awareness and let people know how trash affects our reefs. So a lot of what we see on the beach is it's beautiful, but underneath, the coral reefs are there, and a lot of the trash that's generated on the island falls into the water and eventually reaches the reef.
Reefs are an essential structure for the protection and conservation of our coast and other ecosystems in Puerto Rico by virtue of Law 72 of 2020, signed by then Governor Wanda Vázquez Garcet. It is detailed that during the impact of Hurricane Maria back in 2017, the coral reef dissipated by more than 90% the energy of the storm surge on the country's coast. However, 33% of the world's coral reefs are threatened.
The reef is an amazing structure that helps us because we're an island, so it helps with coastal erosion. It is the first line of defense against strong hurricanes and wave action. It's also a source of income and a source of food, source of medicine as well. So we rely heavily on our coral reefs, and not just us, but many people around the world. So we need to protect them.
A maximum of 40 volunteers per coast will be activated, including captains of boats and volunteers in general, who must be previously registered and receive the required training in security, underwater cleaning protocols, and data registration.
Pick up your trash. Don't leave it on the beach. Don't let it fall into the river. Don't let it fall into the water. All of that reaches the reef at some point.
If you want to get to know more about this event or even register or to register for any other initiative environmental related in Puerto Rico, you can visit their website at the link below. Reporting from Puerto Rico, Alanis Quinones.
And the cabinet of Barbados will be called upon relatively soon to consider a new child protection law that the Home Affairs Minister says will be the country's most progressive piece of legislation. A new child justice bill is also on the cards. Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs Wilfred Abrahams made the disclosure during a press conference over the weekend. during investigations into a 14-year-old girl at the institution being photographed naked in a cell at the Governmental Industrial School, now a state facility for troubled girls. Abraham said the legislation had already been in the works, with work being done with UNICEF even before the story about that incident was published in a local newspaper just last week.
We have a new child justice bill. The reason that bill has not come forward and has not gone to Parliament so far is two reasons. COVID intervened to slow down our process, and the feeling of the Cabinet of Barbados was that if we go to debate a child justice bill and we pass a child justice act, we're dealing with the child after the child has entered the system, after the child has become a part of the process, the judicial system. That is putting the cart before the horse. We need to also look at our child protection legislation and bring the child protection legislation first or at the same time as the Child Justice Act. The child protection legislation deals with all aspects of children. It deals with children in households. It deals with what age you can leave a child unattended. It deals with what constitutes abuse. It deals with the age of criminal responsibility. It is the whole thing. Probably one of the most holistic pieces of legislation we've ever embarked upon. It will be the most progressive piece of legislation in Barbados once it has passed.
And Mr. Abraham said that that matter will go before Cabinet either this week or sometime next week. Once that is done, he said the government will work with UNICEF to fast-track the drafting of the legislation. Meantime, the Home Affairs Minister accepted that there needs to be a complete overhaul at the school. In regard, he announced a new board and said there would be no more solitary confinement at the school.
Acting on the advice of independent professionals and agencies such as United Nations Children's Fund, I have given instructions that the age-old practice of children being detained in isolation under circumstances which are less than acceptable is archaic and unwarranted in this day and must cease as a matter of urgency. Actually, it must cease immediately. Child detention must be seen as a last resort. UN conventions are clear on this matter, and the input of experts such as Dr. Faith Marshall Harris and the legal advisor Dr. Adrian Cummings will be retained and sought to advise on the transformation necessary.
As we continue to honor International Women in the month of March, today we're featuring one of the most dynamic forces and entrepreneurs in Caribbean music history. In One Caribbean News, Damien Sobran has the story.
After 60 years in the music industry, VP Records matriarch Mrs. Patricia Chin continues to pave the way for Caribbean culture on a global scale. Miss Pat, as she is affectionately called, recently sat down to share more on her history, her legacy, and her new book, Miss Pat, My Reggae Music Journey.
I'll describe my journey as a very exciting one. I started over 60 years ago, and it's been a ride, interesting one. Struggles and trial, but also joyful.
The 6-decade journey with present powerhouse VP Records, which was co-founded with her late husband Vincent Randy Chin, has led to many hands-on and rewarding experiences for Miss Pat.
Meeting the producers and the artists, the singers and the musicians, from they were just young, we were all young, trying to create a culture named reggae music, Jamaican music. That's where we really started. Some of my very interesting moments is when I was awarded, when I had the Radio City Music Hall, and my name was on the, seeing my name on the marquees up there was so interesting and so proud to see reggae music is really playing in the big New York Apple.
With the encouragement of friends, family, and supporters across the globe, Patricia Chin has released her latest labor of love, Miss Pat, My Reggae Music Journey, a memoir of her life and work.
We travel together, and every time I travel, people would say to me, why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book? So with that questions, and hoping that my grandkids and great-grandkids can see what I did when I was alive, because my parents Coming from India and China, they did not tell us much about their journey and their struggle. So I wanted to let my great-grandkids and the future generation to see what I did and read what I did and to break the cycle of knowing the struggle and know about the struggle, but also the joy of coming through to another country and make it well.
Miss Pat offered a brief synopsis of what readers can expect in her new book.
So what I did is divided my book into 4 chapters, which is my early years with my family growing up very poor, very, very extremely poor, selling rubber bands and marbles at school to get lunch money. And then my next 20 years is building Randy's record with my husband, selling used jukebox records. And then my another 40 years when I came to America, start to release music, sign the artists, and continue on my journey with the music.
With various accolades under her belt, and after overcoming several challenges as a woman in the industry, Miss Pat is a true icon and pioneer for reggae music. She encourages more women to have careers in music, in particular, the business side of the industry.
We need more women to be up front, not only in the background, but to up front. Be an executive, be a singer, do whatever you do, but be up front. And there's a lot of help for us because I think women and old, they help each other because we know the struggle we go through to be recognized. And they usually say the woman is behind every good man, there's a better woman behind them. So be up front, show your colors, and bring up another person with you when you do.
Miss Pat, My Reggae Music Journey is available for purchase right now. Proceeds from the book will go towards the Vincent and Patricia Foundation, which supports music and arts education and assists young music entrepreneurs as well as the underprivileged. This has been Damien Sobran for One Caribbean Television.
Scientists monitoring St. Vincent's La Soufrière volcano have reported a change in seismic activity associated with the ongoing effusive eruptive of the volcano. And residents of communities nearby have been urged to heighten their preparedness in the event that it becomes necessary to evacuate in short notice. Now, the warning came from the National Emergency Management Organization, which said that while the alert levels remain at orange and no evacuation order or notice has been given, people living in the red and orange volcanic hazard zone should be prepared. La Soufrière has been erupting profusively since late December of 2020, and a new dome formed alongside the one left inside the crater after the eruption in 1979. Lead scientists monitoring that volcano, Professor Richard Robertson, said there have now been actual earthquakes at La Soufrière.
Up until now, really, most of the seismicity or most of the earthquake activity you had from this volcano was really related to the dome building itself up, or what we call dome emplacement events. So you had magma coming out and oozing out, and as it oozed out, it's solid rock. Because it's solid rock, because it's moving, it has gas and things like that. All of those generate seismic signals, and the seismic signals don't have a lot of energy, so they don't get very far. So these signals, these seismic events, these dome emplacement related seismic events were only captured by the station very close, the seismic station very close to the volcano. But late yesterday, in fact, early yesterday, we had a small swarm of events, and then late yesterday evening, we started to have proper earthquakes, proper what we call volcanic tectonic earthquakes, which are earthquakes associated with more rock breaking and magma trying to get through from below the ground.
And Professor Robertson said residents close to the volcano can expect to feel the tremors. He said the activity will continue to be monitored.